Welcome to the Gyrl Podcast, the show where purpose meets inspiration. Each week, I sit down with incredible individuals who open up about their real life journeys, the wins, the setbacks, and the lessons in between. Whether you're navigating career moves, entrepreneurship, or personal growth, you're in the right place. I'm Kyra Mitchell Lewis, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's glow up together. All right. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope you're having a fantastic week wherever you may be in the world. All right. Before we dive in, let's take care of a few things. So make sure you check out our Glow Up Girl merch at glowupgirl.com/shop. And if you have been listening to this show or any other podcast and you're thinking to yourself, I have a story to tell. I love to be on a show, but I'm not really sure how to pull together, my personal story, my personal elevator pitch. Well, I'm glad you were wondering, is there someone who could help me do that? Yes. I've launched something new called Story Labs, and Story Labs are really a powerful space to uncover your voice, own your narrative, and share your story with confidence. So there's nothing like wanting to, be a speaker, wanting to, be on a podcast, or even if you think about your personal career, if you're someone in the corporate space, if you're thinking about what is the story, I'd like to speak, with work through work events, and I'm not really sure what that story looks like. It applies. So it applies to my entrepreneurs. It applies for those who are in corporate as well. So go there and check it out, glowupgirl.com/story-labs, or just go to glowupgirl.com and click on the Story Labs tab. And essentially, you and I will have a one-on-one session. There's a worksheet that will prompt you to get you prepared for the conversation, but really it's a space designed for me to listen to you and for me to help you figure out what that story looks like. So after the session, you get a story snapshot where it is about a 2-pager, 3-pager, depending on how big your story is. But really a space that you can take away and you can pull components as you decide to go out for speaking engagements or podcasts, or even just figuring out, what is my story. So make sure you check that out if you are interested. And finally, for my fellow creators and entrepreneurs, be sure to stop by Studio Wonderwell at hellowonderwell.com. That is the space that I've created for helping dreamers just like you design smarter workflows, stronger brands, and campaigns that really help to get your brand out there so that you have more time to do the things that matter most in your business. All right, so now let's get into today's episode. All right, today's guest is Debra Boulanger. She's a business growth strategist and founder of Launch Lab. Debra has built an incredible career helping women transition from corporate life to thriving entrepreneurship, guiding them to create more money, meaning, and impact. With more than 27 years of experience in sales, marketing, and product development, Debra's helped clients generate hundreds of millions in revenue through her proven business and growth strategies. She's passionate about closing the revenue gap for women and believes entrepreneurship is the new feminist movement. I'm so excited to dive in to how Debra helps women reinvent success on their own terms. So let's jump in. All right, let's welcome Debra to the show. Welcome, Debra.
Thank you so much, Kyra. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yes, awesome. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell our audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I am Deb Boulanger. I am the founder of Life After Corporate. And 13 years ago, I made the leap from my cushy corporate job with the big 6-figure salary and decided to venture out on my own. Right when I was in the middle of getting divorced, my mother's dementia was advancing rapidly, and I had burnout in my business, in the work that I was doing, and I wanted to not abandon my son during this really pivotal time in his life when he was 12 years old, and so I decided to walk away from corporate and start life anew.
Awesome. Well, well, thank you so much for giving us some insight. Obviously, we're going to dig deeper into everything that you do, Deborah. But let's start off by, talking about, you said you left corporate. Let's start there. Let's talk about women who are ready to leave corporate and become, full-time business owners themselves. What do you find are some of the most common fears or challenges that they face? But then on the other side of that, what are some of the things that spark people to go ahead and take that leap for themselves?
Yeah, so the biggest fear is always the money, right? So
Mhm.
it's leaving that paycheck behind and how am I going to replace that working on my own? And there and that's where the fear is. And I think what they underestimate is that there's this whole identity shift that goes along with making that transition. But to tell if you're ready, typically there's something else that's pulling at your heart. There's an idea that won't let you go, and there's also typically a frustration or a feeling like you've hit the end of the line. And that is, I think I don't know if that's what you experienced as well or, um but that's the thing, and I always say trust the niggle, trust your intuition because entrepreneurship rewards people who lead from the heart, and corporate rewards people who lead with their heads. And so it really is exercising a different part of not only your personality, but a different way of making decisions and really getting your heart and brain to work together on a more regular basis.
Also, I love that. And I think, you hit the nail on the head because it is often the money, right? It's the very first thing that, holds us all back, myself included. When I was in corporate, it's like you're immediately thinking like, how am I going to replace this? What if I don't get clients or customers? What am I going to do? But I think that you mentioned. I think one of the things that is important is that people you have to remember, like you have to bet on you, like
Yes.
you have to. It's a leap. It is a leap of faith. It is you believing in yourself because I think some of the things you mentioned, like you start to feel like you're frustrated and that you sort of got hit the end of the line for like the corporate thing you're doing and you're just kind of like, well, is my heart fully there? Or I think things like at a time when you're saying like, oh yeah, I want to move up the ladder. I want this role next. And I think when you get to a place to where the passion, the projects that you are most passionate about are the things that you get the most excited about, and you no longer are thinking about how to climb the corporate ladder, then it is time to like take a step back and look at what you really want for your life.
Yeah, absolutely, Kyra. I mean, I didn't want to go higher. I was 2 levels below the CEO. The next step up was the C-suite. And when
Mhm.
I looked for more interesting projects and doing a lateral move, um, truthfully, there were no opportunities for a woman of my age at that time. I had worked at the company for 20 years, and I think there's also some ageism in
Mhm.
corporate that still exists. And so I went seeking. So I'm a spiritual person by nature. And it was through getting quiet on a meditation cushion, really seeking what is my next? What am I meant to do? And in many ways, entrepreneurship is how you lean into your purpose and it's how you lean
Mhm.
into why am I here? What am I meant to do? It's not meant to be a substitute for the paycheck, in my opinion.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not just packaging up your expertise in a different way to get paid a different way and do something else. It really is the ultimate form of personal development.
It is. I agree with you. I think it is, and it is that opportunity to really thrive in a space that you feel comfortable and confident in. And it's almost like it doesn't necessarily feel like work because it's the thing that you truly are excited to be doing. And especially, I think something you mentioned is like the ability to be able to help other people. Like, I
Yeah.
think the thing for me is like, it's so exciting because it's like, oh, I get to help somebody who doesn't have like this is not their wheelhouse, or this is not a sweet spot for them, but they need it and they're going to trust me to help them, bring it to life, or just being able to like listen to people and sort of help them find their own clarity in some, whatever the specialty may be for you,
Mhm.
for anyone listening or watching. But I agree with you. I do think like I'm also a very spiritual person and a woman of faith, and I think like it is a lot of trusting. It's a lot of trusting not only your intuition, but for me, it's a lot of trusting and listening to God, and like not just talking, but listening, like asking him and then waiting for the answer. Not being like, well, I was just running this by you. No, no. I'm just right. Not sort of like how my husband tells me. He goes, "Yeah, but when you're telling me," he's like, "You're not telling me because you want me to tell you like what I think you should do. You've already made the decision." I was like,
Yeah.
"Huh?"
Exactly, exactly, and I think trust and faith is a big one, right? Because there are times when your bank account doesn't match your mission, right? And having that faith that when you are on your path, when you are showing up and doing all the things, like, it's not, God is not well, God is magic, but it's not that magically your bank account is gonna fill up. It's that if you're following your path and you're doing the things and you're seeking guidance and you're following the guidance that you are
Mhm,
given, then everything works out for you. And it's that faith and trust that's the muscle that you develop that consistently rewards itself, right? So
mhm.
I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times, I've woken up in the morning and said, gee, I could really use a miracle today.
Mhm,
And, something special will show up in the bank account, or, you'll get a unexpected refund from the IRS. I mean, there are always
mhm,
blessings along the way because we are abundantly cared for. And I just think if you're following your path, then and showing
mhm.
up and doing the work, that it works.
Yeah. Now, you've also talked about, when you find success being an entrepreneur, is not just about having a business plan. You need to make personal shifts. What type of personal shifts do women need to make in order for them to thrive in this space?
Well, first of all, don't underestimate the transition from corporate leader to entrepreneur. It's a complete change of identity. It's a complete change of reward systems. So in corporate, you're rewarded for coloring inside the lines and staying in the box and not being too loud and not being too soft and not being too disruptive, and entrepreneurship is the opposite. It's how can you uniquely express your gifts and your talents? How can you take more risks? And as women, I'm just going to go on this little tangent here. We are
Mhm,
conditioned through society, through culture, through the corporate world, sometimes through our family and our family history and our cultural upbringings, to not take risk and that we are worth less. And so one of the big things that needs to be overcome is when you start to think about offering your services, packaging your services, pricing your services, sometimes the self-worth gets in the way. And I frequently have people ask me, well, I'm having trouble pricing because I don't know what I'm worth. And I'll say, well,
mhm,
good news. No one is buying your self-worth. They're buying a solution to a very expensive problem. And when we take ourselves out of the equation, it's
mhm,
really easier to flip that lens and look at what is the value that we bring to the clients that we work with. And
mhm.
that typically is a real shift in thinking, a shift in decision making for my clients.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. So let's talk about any of your clients. So speaking of your clients, do you mind sharing a success story, or that you witnessed someone who's made that transformation from corporate into entrepreneur?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really concerned with in this season that we're in is visibility and differentiation.
Mhm.
right? So how discoverable are you? How visible are you? How different and how unique is your message? How are you bringing your unique ability to the table?
Right.
So one of the things that we teach clients in the Reliable Revenue Mastermind, which is designed to help them bring the infrastructure of 100K in revenue in 100 days of activity. And part of that is getting on the right stages and getting in front of the right audience with the right message. So I've seen clients adapt this strategy, get on the right stages. It could be your own webinars or workshops or getting on conference stages, professional networks, industry associations, but making sure you have a really tight message and that you're delivering it consistently. And that's what keeps your calendar booked and busy with prospective clients. And when you do that consistently, it's one of the only things that you need to do so consistently and regularly, because when you get good at booking clients on your calendar and also get great at discovery calls, then you can have a six-figure year your first year in business. So I have several clients who have adopted that strategy, and they've been in every profession from leadership coaches for sales leaders to consultants to multifamily housing investors and prop tech founders to development consultants for nonprofit entities. I had one client who was a development consultant for nonprofits close $300,000 worth of business in 6 months. It blew me away, it blew her away.
Mhm.
It wasn't it's expected, those results are not typical, so I wanna be clear on that because I'm a truth teller. Um, but when you're consistent and when you do focus on honing your message to great precision and great clarity, those types of results are available to you.
Mm. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
What role, Deborah, does confidence play into stepping into the CEO mindset?
Yeah. I think confidence is the easy part.
Mm.
Because confidence comes from doing things you haven't done before
Mhm.
and realizing you're not going to die, you're not of embarrassment or you're not going to fail and it just feels uncomfortable and truthfully discomfort is where your growth edge is. So
Mhm.
confidence is easy. I think
Mhm.
self-esteem is the hardest part. The whole self-worth and self-esteem piece
Mhm.
is because that will creep in and it will keep you from being visible, and it'll show up in ways like,
Mhm.
"Well, I don't wanna give a talk. I don't feel like I really know my message," or it will also keep you, perfecting something to the nth degree when actually launching it and getting it out in market and being imperfect about it would
Mhm.
actually make you a heck of a lot more money. So I think the self-worth piece, the self-esteem piece is unconscious and much more insidious, and so that's why I think coaches are super important, spiritual guides are really important, having someone in your corner who's really helping you peel back the layers and see how unique and beautiful and special you truly are and why the world needs your gifts.
Mm. I love that, and, I agree with you because I think that it is the thing of, like, being seen and sometimes the fear of being seen,
Yeah.
is what, holds people back, and I 100% agree with you that, like, I'm like, "Just launch something." Like, I put stuff out there all the time, and I'm tweaking it as I go, but it's
Mhm.
like but I will never be a person who's just, like, in the background with, like, a landing page, like, on hidden as you keep going and changing it every day because it's like you're questioning yourself every day as opposed to just like putting it out there. Like no one's like you said, you're not going to die from embarrassment. Like the things that we notice about things that we put out, probably most people aren't going to notice.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely, 100%, and, sell it before you build it.
yeah.
That's what holds you accountable to excellence is you've already sold something to someone, so now we wanna build it with excellence, and once you build something we had a program called the Launch Lab, which I developed 8 years ago, and we have sold that 4-month program over and over and over again, and it wasn't until this year that I felt, "Well, there's some pieces that are outdated, now AI is in there, we wanna build in some AI tools," that we've, pulled it down for a refresh. And
Mhm.
that was just an idea, but the thing with ideas is you wanna market test them first. So I
Mhm,
always say test before you invest. Before you invest in the build, make sure you're having conversations with people who represent your ideal buyers. You're running the idea by them. Is this something that meets their need? Is this something that they would invest in? What would be an important outcome for them? And how would they want to experience that? And once you have
mhm,
that, that's where confidence comes from, by the way, when you first get started. If you do that market research and you have enough conversations and people are expressing problems and solutions that excite you in delivering and solving those, then you have proof. Like, you have
mhm,
proof before you go to market, and that's, I think, why people are scared because they're developing in a vacuum. They're taking a course on how to launch courses, or they have this
mhm.
misguided notion that there's something called passive income, and, you know can we just, like, give a laugh on that one?
For sure, because my gosh, it definitely, it's that's a interesting thing because there's been so many people who are selling things and like, oh, well, all you have to do is just buy this thing and then run this ad. And then it's like, I don't know, I think I was like, because I saw one, because I'm a person like I'm always curious about things. And if the price is low enough for me to like just buy it and see what it is that they're trying to sell people. Like there was this thing I saw about a month ago on Instagram where it was like, I have this one, all you have to do is like buy this one thing and run this one ad on Instagram. And I was like, okay. So then I bought the thing, it was like $17. And when I got in there, I was like, oh my God. Like I didn't know what to call it. Like, is it a Ponzi? It's not a Ponzi scheme, but there feels like there should be some kind of scheme for it. Because it was literally a document that it's like, now you just go and update this document and make it yours. And then you just keep selling it to people, but you're not actually selling anything, but you're selling like how to turn this thing that told you how to sell it and make an ad on Instagram. Like, and people are just buying it and rebranding it. And the girl who was the rigid, well, she probably wasn't the originator, but someone in the line, she's just like, and I wake up every day and I've made this amount of money every day. And I'm like, that just doesn't sound right to me.
I think I've seen that Instagram ad, actually, and that's the thing, because right now we're in a trust recession.
Mhm,
Because people can make claims,
mhm,
and they're not true, and so there's a lot of people out there, a lot of women, because I work with women as well,
mhm,
and, the most common thing I heard last year was, "I can't trust anybody anymore. I've invested so much in my business," and some people have invested like 6 figures in their business growth. They've burned through their severance or what savings that they had put aside to invest, and they have nothing to show for it. And so it's harder for people like me, and I imagine people like you who are truth tellers, who have some serious skills, who really can support people to be heard about the noise. And I think in 2026, that's the holy grail, is
mhm,
to really get known for your unique authority and be out there as a truth teller, dispelling some of the myths, having the hard conversations, saying things like, your results may not match this. This is a story of one of my clients that happened to have
mhm,
this fantastic outcome. But what we've seen is consistent growth year over year with people who adopt these strategies. And they're
mhm.
strategies and they're customized because there is no cookie cutter. There is no one size
Right.
fits all.
Yeah. Yeah. No matter how much people tell you that there is a way, you just do these 5 things and you'll wake up to $10,000 every day in your bank account. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
okay.
BS.
If
Yeah.
that was the case, then we'd all be Oh my gosh. But yes, I definitely say that I definitely agree with you. And I say this all the time. It's like, just try it. And I think too, there's another thing, Deborah, that sometimes it feels like people don't want to have the conversations with the ideal customer because they don't want to feel like the thing that they came up with isn't a good idea. And it doesn't mean it's not a good idea. It just means that maybe you need to tweak it based on, like you said, a pain point for their ideal customer. So
Yeah,
I
and we
yeah,
celebrate that. In the launch lab, we say, "Yay. Oh, look
yeah,
what you found out in 2 months, not 2 years."
Yeah, exactly. I
And
know,
also having those early conversations with strangers, it's a
Mhm.
low impact way. You're not selling anything to anyone. And if they
Yeah.
do have interest in what you're developing, then they typically say, wow, this is kind of interesting. I'd like to learn more. And
Mhm.
then you can transition into more of a sales conversation.
Yeah.
But that is the number one step that most people skip and is the
Mhm.
most important step. And it not only gives you validation on your idea and your offer, it's like training wheels for sales.
Mhm. All right, so let's talk about the woman that's listening or watching us and she's dreaming of something more. I know you gave us, you've already given us some things that people can, sort of be in tune to know that it's time to make that leap. But is there anything additional that, you want to throw out there that women should be looking or listening out for to know that it's time?
Yeah. Um, I do have an ebook that I
Okay.
could share with your audience. It's on my website, which is Life After Corporate. It's called Is Entrepreneurship Right for You? It's called Life After Corporate Is Entrepreneurship Right for You? And in there, I highlight some of the things that I've shared here, but there's also some journal prompts to really reflect
Mm,
and look inward on where you are on your journey. Who would be an ideal client? What is that problem you want to be solving? What is it that you want to be known for? So it's lifeaftercorporate.com. And there's another tool on our this is all on our free resources page. And there's another tool there that's called the pricing calculator. And we refer to it as the revenue calculator, the pricing calculator, it goes either way. But you can input your revenue goal, what you'd like to make. And most people start with replacing their corporate salary. And then what would be the services that you would offer at what price point, and it will calculate for you exactly how many clients you would need to work with in order to make that your reality. And depending on if you know your sales close ratio, exactly how many prospects you need to get on your calendar in order to make that your reality. And so that too takes some mystery out of things because a
mhm,
lot of people think that they can replace the salary on a low ticket offer and they
mhm,
don't want to charge people a lot of money, which I appreciate your heart, but you cannot charge a lot of money for things and end up broke. So the first thing you
mhm,
need to do is really find something that's valuable for people, and then you can serve the people who can't afford that, either with your free offers or offering a low ticket membership, but typically it's not the first place you start.
mhm. Okay. Awesome. So on top of these free resources, you've built a lot of programs, powerful programs. Are there any additional resources or frameworks that people can look into, and how can people work with you if they're saying now, like, I need to talk to Deborah?
Yeah. Well, LinkedIn is where I hang out most often. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I'm Deb Boulanger. So it's DEB and then Boulanger. So just connect with me there. And if we can put the link in show notes.
Mhm.
And, yeah, depending on where you are, if you're just getting started, then the Launch Lab framework, which is that five-step process of connecting with your mission and purpose, finding proof of demand, packaging, pricing, messaging your services, creating your unique selling proposition, and then bringing your services to market. That is the place to start. We also have the Life After Corporate community, and we are relaunching the Launch Lab in the community, and the community is an affordable way to get in and consume some free courses that are in there, connect with other members who are just getting started.
Awesome. Love that. That is great. And so if someone is listening and a woman, as we talked about earlier, someone who might feel like they've outgrown their current role, but if they're afraid to start over, what's the first thing that you would tell her to do after, of course, after listening to us today?
Yes, absolutely. Um, Trust your heart, trust your higher power, trust source. Um, we are all here for a divine reason. And I think part of our experience in these human bodies is to figure out what that divine reason is. And so the first step might be journaling, prayer, meditation. Those are great practices. and then talking to someone like me or like you and say, I have this idea. Where do you recommend I start? And getting some advisors in your corner that you can trust. Don't buy a course. Flat out, do not buy a course. Do not follow a course or a framework to launch your business. Not yet. You need someone to actually personally guide you that's focused on what you want, who you are, what your skills are, who knows what opportunities are out there for you and can validate, whether you're onto something. I mean, I've had strategy calls with women who've said, I was in corporate and this other coach told me that I could replace my $400,000 salary my first year in business. And I've
Mm,
said, "I'm really sorry, but there is no way that that's gonna happen." I hate to be
mm,
the bearer of bad news, but unless you have 4 people hanging out in the wings who each have 6 figures and they wanna hire you and bring you in, it's just not gonna happen in that amount of time. So also be realistic and have a
mm,
cushion, have a financial cushion, whether it's your spouse who's gonna take over the majority of the bills while you build up your practice, or if it's, a severance package or savings that you've set aside. So if you're still in corporate and you know you wanna leave, start banking some of your paycheck or your bonuses to launch your
mm,
business because
mm.
you don't get to launch a business for free.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
You do not. You do not. And most times people are self-funding
Yeah.
businesses. And yeah, so and you do not. I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep saying that. You do not. But I really appreciate Deborah. I appreciate you just being so transparent because I do think a lot of times people come into businesses and they will have coaches who will tell them, like, oh yeah, you're gonna be able to make this amount. And it was so funny. I remember like there was a person I interviewed on the show and they wanted to turn me into a sales call for them, a sales
Oh my gosh.
opportunity. And so we finished the call and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to like just kind of like, chat and hear about what you're doing, blah blah." Blah. And I'm thinking at the time because like, we seemed like we had this good like camaraderie on the call. And then I get in there and I'm like, "Oh, this is a sales call. I'm being pitched to."
Wow.
And it was a heavy pitching, and it was, like, all these things, and then it was I mean, when I say it was a big ticket offer, it was a very big ticket offer, and I think the thing that I was most, like, slightly annoyed with is because I was always very honest with people when I was, like, in corporate. I'm like, "I'm in corporate. I am self-funding this business. Like, I am working, I am living as a human being in the world, and I am taking money from my paychecks, corporate paychecks to also fund my businesses. And so then, I'm like, so then I don't understand why you would have thought that you would have come to me and said, "Oh, here's the offer." And it was, I don't know, maybe a 25, $30,000 program.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I think there are
Yeah,
things that are very like of value and work, but I'm like, there was nothing in the conversations that it's about listening to people. And I was like,
yeah,
there was nothing in the conversation that I said that made you feel like I wanted to, do that or use a credit card to do that. Especially when I was like, yeah, not really a person that, likes gets in. I don't prefer credit card. Like I have credit cards, but they are definitely like emergency use only. I don't go and put vacations on them. I'm a person that's like, look, I'm working and there's money, then I'm going to pay for it with money. If I can't pay for it with money, then maybe I don't need to do it. And so I remember saying that. And then the person just like repeatedly, was like, oh, okay, well, do we need to pull your husband into the call? And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that I'm good on making this decision for myself. But,
wow.
yeah.
Now and, that just brings up the point that, trust your feeling, if you're feeling that someone is being really transactional with you, and to me,
Hmm.
transact I find 2 types of business coaches, those that are transactional and those that are relational.
Right.
Relational coaches really care about you, they'll ask you questions about your goals, your
Hmm.
desires,
Hmm.
what you've already tried, what you imagine, and there's good debt and bad debt, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Uh,
if it's an investment,
mhm.
that has a return, then that's different than,
Yeah.
paying for a pocketbook or paying for a vacation.
Yeah, and it's very different, like you mentioned, someone who is actually listening to learn about you and to figure out how they can help you from a relational standpoint, but versus somebody who's just like, I've got this quota to get this number of people into my program, so I make this amount of money. So that's very different. And obviously, yeah. So but I just thought, yeah, so I appreciate that you said that because I do think, well, I think that coaches are amazing and I think they are so important and needed. And you need to have, I always say you need to have a coach and you need to have a therapist. And like you said, and a spiritual advisor. So you need to have those
Yeah.
things. And I think when people do take advantage of people, it's just really sad to see because it does make it hard for people to like reach out to get that help again, and they just sort of suffer in silence or they make a lot of, like, the wrong moves, and they end up back at, like, square one having nothing to show for it.
Right.
Alright, very good, very good. So, again, can you please tell everybody out there listening, watching, where they can find you on LinkedIn and also, on the web as well?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, and also the Life After Corporate podcast. If you're really thinking about launching a business, there are some great episodes there with people I love and trust who are truth tellers. I interview great people. I also share a lot of our frameworks. There is a program there. I don't know the episode numbers offhand, but it's the Proven Profit Path. And that was recordings from a 5 session masterclass that I gave a couple of years ago, and that kind of outlines for you step by step what it really takes to launch a business. So that's a great resource. So lifeaftercorporate.com and then the podcast by the same name. I've got the trademark. Any life after corporate it likely comes from me.
Awesome. And we will drop the links to everything in the show notes as
Thanks,
well.
Kyra.
All right. So we're going to go into three things with Deborah. I was one, I know that you are also referred to as Deb, but I feel like I should call you Deborah. So I'm just,
That's okay. It
um,
works either way. Just no Debbie. Thank you.
I love it. It's like for me, I'm like, no, it's not Kyra, it's Kyra. All right. So the first question I'm going to ask you is a two-parter, and one of my favorite questions to ask: how do you start and end the day?
That is a great question. So I start the day with 3 hours to myself. So I typically get up at 6:30 in the morning, and there's a little wake up period, and then there's a spiritual practice of reflection, meditation, journaling, and then shower. So that's like the morning routine takes about 3 hours. In the evening, it's usually just a quick reflection on gratitude, what went well and celebrating what went well and not focusing on anything that's causing fear or anxiety, but really going to bed with a clear head.
Awesome. Love that. What's a goal or intention you set for yourself this year? And if you don't mind sharing where you are with it, since we are getting toward the end of the year, that would be fantastic.
Well, this is a transitional year for me. So, as I mentioned, we're redoing the launch lab. So, we've taken it off the market. Also, leaning heavily into the 2x, 10x is easier than 2x methodology by Dan Sullivan. So, I have a new business model that's under development. So, I am in that interstitial space of change and have actually given myself permission to not reach a particular financial goal this year, but by the end of the year, we want to relaunch the Launch Lab inside the Life After Corporate community. So that's number one, and we are on track for that by the end of this year. And then I'm testing out my own big idea for the 10x strategy. So I'm doing some market research as well.
Nice. Love it. Awesome. And the last question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
I'm currently finding inspiration. Now, this is really interesting in crystals.
Oh,
So I started working with, um, I know we only have a couple of minutes, but I've always had crystals since I was a young girl. So I have a lapis heart, blue lapis heart that I'm wearing as a necklace. That was something I got in college that represented my transition to this new time in my life.
Mhm.
And I started looking through my jewelry box, and I have a lot of crystals, and I had a few in collections. But then I started more purposefully collecting crystals, and then I started learning about sacred geometry and putting crystals in formation to support specific intentions. So
Okay.
that's like my passion right now.
Oh, cool.
Trying not to blow my budget on new crystals.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, Deborah, I just want to thank you again so much for coming and sharing and just for your transparency. Anytime I always want people on and people always hear me say it. I'm like, I want people on who are going to be real and like just, state the real facts, no fluff here. But before I let you go, there's one last question I'd like to ask is what are three things you'd like our audience listening or watching to take away from our conversation today?
Don't let fear stop you. Fear is the indication that you're on your growth edge. Um, your pricing is reflective of the value you deliver, not what an hour of your time is worth. And lastly, business growth can be consistent and predictable once you figure out what works for you and you start showing up consistently as the CEO in this business and not doing all the things, but just doing only the things that truly matter and that move the needle.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And Deborah, thank you again so much for coming and sharing with the community today.
Thank you, Kyra. I
Aw-
appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. All right. Welcome back to the Gyrl Podcast. I want to thank Deborah again today for joining the show. Just want to make clarification there from my earlier opening that Deborah's business is Life After Corporate. And it's lifeaftercorporate.com. And I will make sure those links are in the show notes. So just want to make sure that I clarify that is her business name. The Launch Lab is just the program inside of Life After Corporate. All right. So if you want to learn more about Deborah and the work she does, make sure you check out all the links in the show note, connect to her, listen to the podcast, and reach out to her on LinkedIn and connect. All right. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, you can visit our site at glowupgirl.com and sign up for our newsletter to get tools, insights, and inspiration for your glow up journey. All right. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are at Glow Up Girl and sign up. And make sure that you rate, review, and share. It helps more women find us, the show, whenever you are sharing. And also, if you're on social, make sure you share and tag us so we can cheer you on. All right. Earlier, I talked about Story Lab. So if you're ready to turn your personal story into purpose, make sure you check out Story Labs at glowupgirl.com. Click on the link Story Labs. Look, Story Labs tabs. Okay, sorry. All right, and for the creatives and business owners ready to work smarter, visit Studio Wonderwell at hellowonderwell.com to explore custom systems and strategies for your next big move. And alas, if you are a brand or business looking to partner with a community of women chasing big dreams, Glow Up Girl is now accepting sponsorship. So reach out at hello@glowupgirl.com. All right, I think that does it for us today. Thank you again for spending part of your day with me. I'll see you all next week. So until then, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.